welcome back to MVM. Today we're going to be taking a look at the game Dinodocus from Thematic Games. Now, this is a real word, a real term. It means doubtful name in Latin. It basically is saying you're giving a name to some kind of dinosaur that might not be a real dinosaur. You probably just made it up. And that's what you're doing in this game. You're going to be making up your own dinosaurs by drafting cards to place in a line that's basically going to form a mix match of a bunch of different real dinosaurs to come up with your own unique dinosaur creations. And you're going to see that already here. The game has a very small footprint, but you're going to have 4 decks of cards that represent the different parts of the dinosaur. You have the head, you have the front legs or arms, you have the back legs, and then you have the tail. Each one of these stacks is going to be shuffled, and you'll notice that they all represent a part of a different dinosaur, like I said. These are going to be face down. I have them face up here just kind of for illustration purposes, but each one of these is going to get flipped face down at the start of the game when you set it up. And you'll notice here on the back that each one of these is marked by their correct symbols. There's a few other components. You're going to have vegetation tokens and timeline cards. Each player is also going to get a Permian card in their color that represents their start of the timeline in the Jurassic period. In addition, each player is also going to start with one dinosaur pre-made for them. You're going to draw one card from the top of each deck and place it in front of you to make up your dinosaur. The last thing you're going to get is one of these player aids that's going to talk you through how to actually play the game. Once you've got all this dealt out, you're ready to go and actually start playing. You're trying to use these dinosaurs that you've created in order to score points. You need to keep your dinosaur alive. It needs to be able to feed and survive, and that's how you're going to score points in the game. Now, each one of these dinosaurs is going to be an herbivore or a carnivore based on the color of the head. I have a green in front of me, which is an herbivore. So at the start of the game, you're going to create your dinosaur by overlapping the cards you were dealt, and you're going to see that not only does this create some kind of image, it also creates a set of powers and abilities along the bottom. You're going to have a number of icons that indicate the attack and the defense of your particular dinosaur. This is, of course, going to determine its survivability. Some dinosaurs are going to have a higher defense value, and some dinosaurs are going to have a higher attack value. It doesn't actually matter which one is which. You're only looking at the higher value to indicate how well you can survive. A dinosaur with a really high defense can survive longer because they are defensive. Dinosaur with a really high strength value can survive longer because they're good fighters. So when you're creating your dinosaur, you're only interested in whichever one of those two sets of icons is the highest. So you're always going to start your turn with 5 cards in your hand. If you don't have a dinosaur, for instance, if your dinosaur was eaten or if it died out in a previous round and you have no dinosaur in front of you, then you can play a dinosaur from your hand and then draw back those cards, assuming, of course, that you have everything it takes to create a dinosaur. Otherwise, you just move on to the draw phase, where you'll draw back up to 5 cards from any of these piles. If you have cards in your hand that you don't like for whatever reason, you can discard them to the discard pile that matches and draw a new card to replace it. It doesn't have to be from that same pile. Remember, you're trying to build out a dinosaur here, so you want to make sure that you have all of the different viable parts. Once you finish drawing back up to 5 cards, that's when you'll get to play more dinosaurs if you can make them. So if you have everything required, for example, I could play another dinosaur with a head, I have a hand, I have back legs, and I have a tail. So I have created another dinosaur, which is great. However, I've created another herbivore, which is good for me. It's a way to score more points. However, I've created more competition for food now. Now that's considered hatching a dinosaur, playing a full dinosaur in front of you. You can also mutate a dinosaur. If you don't like a certain part of your dinosaur, you can take a card from your hand and you can replace that part with a new part. Maybe it gives you a higher strength value or a lower strength value. It's whatever strategic decision, you could potentially mutate your dinosaur. You can also mutate your opponent's dinosaurs. So if you have an opponent with a very high strength value on one of their cards, and you can replace that body part, you can severely weaken your opponent by replacing their highest strength card. Now, the only thing you cannot do is you cannot change an herbivore to a carnivore or vice versa. So if you're replacing the head of an herbivore, it has to be with the head of another herbivore. When you mutate an opponent's dinosaur, they do get to react. So you can't just completely cut somebody out. If they have a card in their hand, they can choose to then mutate in response again. So if you mutate their dinosaur with a card, they can mutate their dinosaur with a card. They can either just replace that card you just put in, or they can replace another card to kind of find some way to make those things work together. So you're always going to want to try to keep some cards in your hand with high values in case somebody comes along and tries to mutate your dinosaur. But once you've declared that you're done, you've played your dinosaur, you've mutated dinosaurs, that's when you have to feed your dinosaurs. Now, herbivores have to eat those vegetation tokens. If there's plenty in the pool, it's no problem. You'll just take one and you'll place it on each of your herbivores. No big deal. They're going to be eating now. But there's only 4 of these in the game. So if there are more than 4 herbivores, there's now competition for these. You're going to have to fight the other dinosaurs and steal from them. You're going to look at that attack value like I described earlier and compare it to your opponent. If you're higher than them, you're going to steal that vegetation token from them. If you have a carnivore, then the only way to feed is to eat another dinosaur. You're going to do the same thing by comparing your strength to their strength. However, if you have the higher strength, you eat them, they're gone, they're removed from the game. That's not necessarily a bad thing though. The only time that dinosaurs are going to score is when they're removed from the game. So let me explain. Every dinosaur that survives is considered to prolong its species for 5 million years. You're going to take a 5 million years points card and you're going to place it on that particular dinosaur. So if both of my dinosaurs were fed, they both survived 5 million years. If they come again and survive another round, they'll get another set of 5 million years. Now they've each survived 10 million years. When these dinosaurs die, either because maybe I can't feed them a vegetation token or a bigger predator comes along and eats them, all of the cards are going to be discarded back to their individual piles, and you're going to score your 5 million year cards. You're going to take these cards and you're going to add them to your timeline. And you're going to continue adding these cards to your timeline as they are scored in order to eventually create the biggest timeline. So every time your dinosaur survives, you're just adding and adding and adding those points cards. So scoring is very simple. At the end of the game, you're simply going to look at every player's timeline and you're going to see who has the longest timeline, whose dinosaur species have survived the longest and accrued the most points. This stack of period cards, the 5 million year cards, also determines the end of the game. So all of these cards are going to be dealt out into players' timelines over the course of the game. The game is only going to end when this is depleted. Once it's depleted, that's it. No one else can score. The game is over. You're going to look at everything you scored from your extinct dinosaurs. You're going to look at all the points cards that are hanging out on your surviving dinosaurs, add that all together, and figure out who wins. So the game is not super hard to play, as you can tell. So if you're a fan of games like Evolution or Oceans, you're going to get a little bit of that same feeling in this game in a much smaller package and a much lighter, easier to teach game. I would definitely consider this to be kind of a family weight or gateway level game. So thank you so much for taking a look at Dinodocus with me today. The game is coming to Kickstarter, so you can see what all the final components are going to look like. You'll be able to see what all stretch goals they have in store and just a breakdown of all the different types of dinosaurs that are included in the game. So as always, thank you guys so much for sticking with me today. Please comment below. Let me know what you're most excited about, which dinosaurs you hope made the cut here in this game. And as always, please like, subscribe, and follow us at MVM, and I will see you next time.
Now, before you go, there's one more thing I want to talk about. I hate to bring this up, but YouTube analytics tells us to do this. So please click on the subscription button, ring the bell, watch our next video, rinse and repeat. Just keep doing that over and over and over and over.